Hi, this is Nick Forster. We're going to share one of our favorite eTown shows from the archives, and it starts right now.
Live from eTown Hall in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, it's eTown with this week's guest. From Nashville, New West recording artist Lilly Hiatt, author and freelance journalist Helen Thorpe, and also from Nashville, 30 Tigers recording artist John Oates. I'm Helen Forster. Join me now in welcoming our host, Nick Forster.
Thank you, Helen. Thanks, everybody. Welcome to eTown Hall. We have a really interesting combination of guests this week. An up-and-coming singer-songwriter from Nashville who's been playing and writing since she was a teenager. Lilly Hiatt has just released her third solo record. We've got a celebrated author. Helen Thorpe is here with us. Her new book is a great one. It really takes a good look at one of the most important and somehow kind of contentious issues these days, which is about immigration. She spent an entire school year with refugee teenagers who were learning both the English language and how to live in America. So she's with us to share some of that story with us. And of course, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer John Oates is here. John is half of Hall & Oates, as you well know. He has written a ton of hit songs, as well as a memoir called Change of Seasons that kind of chronicles what is already an amazing life from the Lower East Side of New York, entertaining his first-generation Italian mother's family, singing songs in both English and Italian when he was about 3 years old, on to rural Pennsylvania, becoming a high school wrestler, falling in love with folk music and rock and roll and doo-wop in the 50s and 60s, on to his meeting Daryl Hall, and then the stadium shows and becoming a race car driver, an airplane pilot, singing on We Are the World, and then the subsequent reinvention when his accountant told him that he didn't have any money, even though they sold 80 million records. I mean, it's an amazing story, and of course it got better. They found some money, and it continues. You know, he continues to be a creative guy who loves music, loves playing guitar, and had a surprising connection to folk music ever since the very beginning, and acoustic music. So he's made a new record called Arkansas that taps into those roots, a real deep love of Mississippi John Hurt. Along with this new book, he's also, continuing to explore. So we're really happy that he's here. He's here along with his buddy Guthrie Trapp. So let's go. Please welcome for his first visit to eTown, Mr. John Oates.
Whoa. Well, thank you, Nick, for that very comprehensive introduction.
It was just the beginning. I was just skimming the surface.
Just warming up. Okay, well, speaking of warming up, I'm fixated on the 1920s and the 1930s, and it's part of what I've done on my new album. So this song is from the great Jimmie Rodgers. It's one of my favorite songs. I got to perform it at the Bristol Rhythm and Roots Festival a few years back, and once I learned it, I just put it in the show. It's just a beautiful song. I'm growing tired of the big city lights, tired of the glamour and tired of the sights, and in my dreams I've been roaming once more, far from my home on the old river shore. I'm so sad and weary, far away from home. I miss the Mississippi and you. Days are dark and dreary everywhere I roam. I miss the Mississippi and you. Rolling the wide world over, always under heaven's dome. I miss the Mississippi and you. Mockingbirds are singing round the cabin door. I miss the Mississippi and you. Longing for my homeland, muddy water shore. I miss the Mississippi and you, dear. Miss the Mississippi. And you. Thank you.
Well, welcome, John Oates. So good to have you here. We have both spent a lot of time in Colorado, even though it's not our native state, but we've both spent a lot of time here, and we haven't really spent much time together somehow.
I know. We've been threatening.
We've been talking about it.
Right.
As I mentioned in your introduction, I just thought your story is so cool, and you do such a good job of sort of vividly capturing all these little pieces and parts, and I can't help but want to start with your grandparents. Your grandfather, was he from Wales originally?
He was an English policeman stationed on the Rock of Gibraltar.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Where he fell in love with a Moorish woman who lived in a cave, believe it or not. I know.
See what I'm saying? I'm not making this stuff up.
Well, it was a cave, but it was a house in a cave.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then your mother's pure Italian.
All Italian, that's
Yeah.
correct.
And big Italian family in the Lower East Side of New York.
Yep.
And that was sort of like your entree into performing, was just entertaining these
Italians.
these Italians,
Yes.
singing in Italian, right?
Yes, I made my professional debut at the Wildwood Crest Pier in New Jersey. Oh, singing Volare in Italian. My grandmother told me I would win, and she was right. $20.
Wow.
And that's how it started.
Wow. And then your family moved to Pennsylvania. You left New York. Yep. Was there music in your house then when you got there, or was it just whatever was on the radio?
Well, my folks liked music. They liked to dance. They liked big band music. I grew up with big band music. Mm-hmm. And I started taking guitar lessons at 6, and they provided me with instruments. They were very supportive.
And then, we talk about the Philadelphia sound.
Yep.
How would you describe the Philly sound?
In broad terms, Philadelphia is very well known for its urban R&B through the great songs and recordings of Gamble and Huff. Right. But Philadelphia has an amazing folk tradition, too. And I think it's very a unique city. I mean, if you think about it, and I don't want to get too deep in this, but from a kind of geographic and historic perspective, Philadelphia was the first northern cities north of the Mason-Dixon line. So after the Civil War, a lot of rural African Americans came north, and one of the first places they settled was Philadelphia. So you have this very unique unique Anglo-English classical tradition mixing with this more rural African-American folk tradition. And I think it's what makes Philadelphia so damn soulful.
Yeah. I love the fact that as a kid you were into doo-wop and you were into the early rock and roll. You were singing, Elvis songs, but you discovered Doc Watson and you discovered, Mississippi John Hurt. And on the radio, I heard that the Philly radio stations didn't really get moved by the British invasion thing. The whole Beatles and Rolling Stones thing didn't really catch on there.
It's true. You couldn't dance to it. In Philadelphia, if you can't dance to music, they weren't interested. So, the early Beatles stuff sounded weird to me. It sounded like a bunch of guys, kind of like my friends playing in the garage. Little did I know what was really they were going to evolve into.
Right.
I was obviously not getting it at first because I was wearing sharkskin suits and trying to play songs with string arrangements and things like that. So
wow, so wild. And then you did your obligatory ramble through Europe in the early '70s, and you came back and then dove into this partnership with Daryl Hall.
Yeah, I met Daryl, and he asked me if I would be the guitar player backing his vocal group. One of the first things that he had going was a showcase at the Gaslight in the Village in New York. So we got together, we went to New York, played the Gaslight, and then Daryl kind of sprung a little surprise on me. He said, "Oh, and by the way, after we finish doing this, we're going uptown to the Apollo Theater to see the Temptations." And I was like, so this Daryl Hall guy was impressing me right out of the box.
That's cool.
But what he didn't tell me was that we were going through the backstage door into the backstage because Daryl's group was called the Temptones, and they were actually discovered by the Temptations. So we hung around backstage with them and then went into the front row and watched the show at the Apollo Theater.
Wow.
It was a pretty amazing experience.
Wow. So, like I said, folks, I'm not making any of this up. It's a ridiculous story, and it carries all through the trials and tribulations and the false starts and the songwriting and the nefarious hangers-on and agents and managers. But, the bottom line is a really amazing journey. Mm-hmm. And what's so interesting about your story is that you kept on trying, kept on looking, kept on finding new ways, modulating through the MTV era and
Surviving the MTV era.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that brings us back to kind of full circle. Now you're spending more time in Nashville. This new record of yours, Arkansas, is really kind of reconnecting with those Mississippi John Hurt songs that you really laboriously studied and learned and figured out how to play like those guys. Hours and hours of practicing, right?
Well, it was what I did before I met Daryl Hall. When I was playing guitar, as I said, I started at 6. And I was very fortunate in the mid-'60s to meet an incredible guy named Jerry Ricks in Philadelphia, who became my guitar teacher and mentor and introduced me to a lot. And actually, there was, across the street from where Jerry lived, there was a guy named Dick Waterman who managed a lot of these early performers. And they would come to Philadelphia, they would sleep on the couch, I would get to meet them, go see them at the Second Fret or whatever. And so it was just an amazing time to be in Philadelphia. And that was what I did before I met Daryl and we started on our partnership. So
yeah, it's just cool to understand the depth of your fascination and your appreciation for the particular style of country blues and fingerstyle that these guys popularized and invented. Really. Anyway, we could go on. I think the idea is that there's lots more to be discovered both on your new record and in your book.
Oh, thank you.
And meanwhile, let's get back to some more music.
Shall we do one more?
At least.
At least.
At least. Right. Welcome back, if you would, John Oates.
This next one we're going to do, since we spoke so much about Mississippi John Hurt, we're going to do one of his classics. It's one of the first tracks we cut on the Arkansas album. Staggerly, it's been recorded and the story's been told in many different ways by many different artists over the years. And this is kind of a traditional and original version. Oh, police officer, now, how can that be? You can arrest everybody, but you afraid of Stagger Lee. He's a bad man, cruel old Stagger Lee. Billy DeLine told Stagger Lee, now, please don't take my life. I got 3 children and darling, lovely wife. staggerly. I don't care about your children, I don't care about your wife, no. You done stole my Stetson hat now, I wanna take your life. I'm a bad man, alright. Shot Billy DeLine down upon the barroom floor. Now he's a bad man, cruel old Stagger Lee. Up on the gallows, Stagger Lee did fuss and cuss. Judge said, boys, better hang him now before he kills the rest of us. He's a bad man, cruel old Stagger Lee. He's a bad man, cruel old Stagger Lee.
That's John Oates, along with Guthrie Trapp and the eTones, Chris Engelman, Ron Jolly, Christian Teal, Aaron Youngberg on the steel guitar. The record's called Arkansas, and John Oates will be back later on to play a bunch more music.
This portion of eTown is made possible by the Bohemian Foundation, building stronger communities through the bohemian qualities of creativity and imagination. On the web at bohemianfoundation.org. As a reminder, for your viewing pleasure, there are over 2,000 videos on the eTown YouTube channel, where you can also subscribe in order to stay up to date with our latest offerings. And if you're curious about eTown's home base, eTown Hall, our beautiful solar-powered music venue, community center, and recording studio located in downtown Boulder, Colorado, you can learn more about it on our website, etown.org. You're listening to eTown.
I'm Nick Forster. This is eTown. John Oates is going to be back a little later on the show. And coming up also from Nashville, Lilly Hiatt is here today to play some songs from her latest record. Before we get back to music, I mentioned that Helen Thorpe is here. She's an author, and we're really glad she is. Here comes Helen Forster to tell you more about her.
Thank you, Nick. Yes, Helen Thorpe is here. Early in her career, Helen was either a freelance or a staff writer for the Atlantic Monthly, The New Yorker, Slate, New York Times Magazine, and others. Now, more recently, she's the author of 3 award-winning books. Just Like Us, chronicling the lives of 4 Mexican-American girls in Denver, Soldier Girls, telling the story of 3 women from Indiana who joined the National Guard only to be called up and sent to Afghanistan and Iraq. And most recently, The Newcomers, a close look at the lives of refugee teenagers who arrive in America after, in many cases, unimaginable challenges and struggles, only to learn a new language and a new culture with the hope of a new beginning. Now, born in London to Irish parents, Helen went to Princeton and Columbia, and she's a former First Lady of Colorado. Please welcome to eTown, Helen Thorpe.
Welcome, Helen. Welcome back to eTown.
My pleasure.
Yeah, glad you're here. So, your third book, The Newcomers, we can kind of see the thread running through them so far. It has to do with exploring lives that we might not otherwise encounter, being where we are and how we live and where we live. these are all glimpses, for me at least, into lives of my fellow citizens that I wouldn't otherwise see. And is that driven from your natural sort of journalistic curiosity, or is it also your commitment to sort of solving this puzzle of inequality?
I think that it's motivated by a feeling I have that there's conversations we have in our country that aren't as thoughtful or as deep as I would wish. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if I can tell the right nonfiction story, I can engage people or interest them in learning more about a subject they might not otherwise know.
So that leads us right into this subject of the day, which is immigration. It's sort of something we hear about all the time.
Indeed.
Tell us what you began to discover. You found out about Mr. Williams' class at South High School in Denver. That is the place, as I understand it, where it's sort of like a magnet school for non-English speaking teenagers who arrive in the Denver metro area, and they all pretty much go there. Yeah,
pretty much that's it. South is unusual because it's a regular urban high school that serves all the kids that regular big high schools serve, but it also has what's called a Newcomer Center. And they focus on helping refugee students get settled in their early transition when they're just here, don't have a lot of English, and maybe their schooling has been interrupted by war, other things. Yeah.
So you sat as an observer in this classroom, and it started small and it grew throughout the school year.
Yeah, it did, which is strange. You know, most classrooms start around the size they end up at, but this one had 5 kids at the beginning, 22 by the end of the year, because the teacher just collected students as the families arrived in the U.S.
Yeah. But you did get to know their parents and their circumstances during the course of the year. And in some cases, the parents arrived after having escaped, for example, from the Middle East and maybe migrated from Iraq through Syria into Turkey and then by water and become a refugee in Greece and found their way into, really
amazing
difficult
stories.
And amazing stories.
Yeah. There were 22 kids in the room from 11 countries, and they spoke 14 languages because some of the countries don't have one shared language that everybody speaks. And they also used 5 alphabets, the kids among them.
Amazing.
They represented the globe, and especially the globe where there's difficulty and conflict.
Sure.
Whenever we've had big waves of immigration, it's obviously very heated, and it's uncomfortable, I think, personally, for me and many people, the turns the political rhetoric has taken. But, you know, this too shall pass.
Well, I think with your help, you tell this story in a completely different way, because now we're automatically going to feel empathy for these families and for these kids because we understand their struggle. We understand why they're coming here. We understand what they have to do even once they arrive here. It's not like, therefore, they're all set.
Yeah.
The struggle continues to learn the language, to assimilate, to find employment, to integrate into a teenage society.
Yeah. You know, as I was getting to know these kids, really the awe that I felt at just how great their struggle was in learning English and trying to become American at the same time, trying to fit in this high school, trying to figure out what you wear to high school. Should they eat spicy chicken in the cafeteria or not? What was spicy chicken? You know, and yet their full personalities started to bloom by the end of the year, and the room became this really joy-filled place where these kids who had been so lonely at the outset, unable to communicate with one another, unable to make friendships, unable to really understand what their teacher was saying. You know, by the end of the year, the kids had grown so tremendously. They had learned so much English so quickly. A couple of the kids started reading To Kill a Mockingbird in their second year in the United States. Wow. Extraordinary learning curves.
Amazing.
Really amazing.
Yeah, and it's not easy. I mean, you're a mother of a teenager. You know that just being a teenager is hard.
It is indeed. And I often thought about my son while I was in that classroom watching the struggles that the kids were going through. And I thought about how relatively easy his life is in the United States compared to some of the countries.
Yeah. It's an amazing idea to think that these kids were in life and death situations as 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
We tend to sort of think of this immigration issue as being monochromatic, but what you're describing is global challenges that set peoples in motion for the safety of their families, and that they find themselves on their way here.
They do, and it resonates for me personally because I grew up with a green card, And every time we would come back from Ireland, I was just ridiculously devoted to this particular green card that had a picture of my mom, who looked very young in this photograph, carrying me as a baby. And so I refused, even though I was supposed to update my green card, I just didn't. And I got stopped in the airport every time, separated from my family and held for lengthy periods while my mom and my brother and my sister were, I just encountered the immigration system in a personal way that always stayed with me and made me be curious about those who are having even greater difficulties sort of along the same lines.
Yeah. Well, you've done a great job, not just in highlighting the issue, but in highlighting the humanity and the context, providing the context, and for me, understanding just a little tiny bit about what these families have gone through already, what these kids are grappling with as they deal with the equivalent of another planet, and still looking for ways to be contributing members of society, which they're well on their way to becoming, thanks to this program. But really, I learned a lot from your book, and I appreciate your ongoing effort to shine a light on these sort of backstories that, as you say, deepen our understanding and our appreciation for this context of these issues that we talk about, but we may not really fully understand. So,
Thank you.
thanks, Helen. Thanks so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for
The
having me.
book is called The Newcomers, Helen Thorpe's latest.
Now, to our listeners, if you want to learn more about Helen Thorpe and her books, you can find more information about her on our website, which is etown.org. You know, we always love to hear from our listeners. If you'd like to comment on this conversation or the show in general, you can connect with us through social media or write to us the old-fashioned way if you so choose at Box 954, Boulder, Colorado 80306.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Helens. We've got more music coming up from John Oates in just a little while. I want to tell you about our next guest. Lilly Hiatt was born in Los Angeles. She grew up in Nashville with her pretty famous dad, John. She got her first guitar when she was around 12 years old. She went to college in Denver, moved briefly to Austin, and then back to Nashville. She's just released her third solo record, and she's been working hard touring with her band, and she's going to continue to do that this year. With good reason, because she's got a lot of songs she's written and she needs to get it out there. But she is here this week on her own. Really happy to have her for her first visit. Please welcome, if you would, Lilly Hiatt.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to play a little bit quietly, and then I'll get everyone out with me. I get bored, so I want to get drunk. I know how that goes, so I ain't gonna touch it. I get bored and wanna find someone. I know how that goes, so I ain't gonna rush it. I'm gonna hang on a little bit longer, sleep well, work a little harder, put my faith in something I can't see. Crack a window when it rains. This is living off of Trinity Lane. It's working alright for me. From here, I wanna come and see you, but it really doesn't matter. Sarah's downstairs and she's singing. I smell garlic cooking. I think this is better. I'm gonna hang on a little bit longer, sleep well, work a little harder, put my faith in something I can't see. Crack a window when it rains. This is living off of Trinity Lane. It's working alright for me. I wanna get drunk. I know how that goes, so I ain't gonna touch it. I think my neighbors are selling drugs. I know how that goes. I ain't judging nothing. I'm gonna hang on a little bit longer, sleep well, work a little harder, put my faith in something I can't see. Crack a window when it rains, slipping off a Trinity Lane. It's working alright for me. Yeah, it's working alright for me.
Lilly Hiatt, welcome to eTown.
Thank you.
Good to hear you sing and play.
Thanks.
So I can imagine that making music was something that you just imagined people do. So it wasn't like an unusual thing in your childhood to see people making music, right?
Yeah, I didn't realize my dad was a cool dad till I was older, you know?
Right.
But I kind of knew he was, you know, then. But yeah, it was normal to just pursue your dreams
Yeah.
in my house. So.
Did you start writing when you were early? I know, at least it seems like you got your first guitar when you were around 12 or so. Did you start writing
Yeah.
around then too?
Yeah, I'm sure
Making
I'd
up
written
songs.
some little stuff here and
Yeah.
there before, I think, you know, but that's when I started trying to write songs
Yeah.
and for, you know, for
And
real.
then your time in Denver, you had a band when you were going to college, right?
Yeah, that's when I formed my first band, was in Denver. It was pretty wild, so.
It was wilder, the times were wilder.
The whole deal, I guess. I don't know. Just, our name was Lush for Life. I'm the only one that liked it. I thought it was great. And we played a lot, you know. We played a lot around towns.
Oh, that's cool. And then
Yeah.
from there you went to Austin for a little bit.
Exactly.
And so now you're living in East Nashville. Tell me what it's like to be in a community where a lot of people your age and a lot of your friends are aiming in this similar direction, because I think it's rare.
Yeah, it is. It's something that you can easily take for granted, and traveling around really helps me appreciate that as well as other communities. But it's inspiring, you know,
Yeah.
it's very motivating to be in a town like that, so.
And it's collaborative rather than competitive for the most part, right?
I'd say, I mean, everyone says that, but there's both. There's got to be competitive. That's
Right.
what keeps you on your toes. But
Yeah.
it's a friendly competition there, in a way, you know. So, but there's a lot of community too. So.
One of the first bands to play, you know, in this renovated old church was Shovels and Rope.
Oh,
And
cool.
so I'm not sure how it is that you made that connection to Michael Trent from Shovels and Rope, because he produced your new record, right?
Yeah, someone that I work with suggested him, and I thought that's interesting. So
Yeah.
we started talking, and he's really cool. So
Well, it's cool because he understands both sparse and power. You know. which
yeah,
are, you
no,
know,
I'd
it's-
agree. That's a good combo
Yeah, it's a good combo.
and
if
a
you're gonna-
rare combo.
Yeah. So you made a really good record, Lily, and I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to learn some of these songs. We're going to dive into them a little more, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna grab
Let's
them
get back to
too.
music. Welcome back to eTown, Lilly Hiatt.
Thank you. Helen's here now. Yay!
Word on the street, you everything that I had. I gave you everything, everything that I had. I'm the one getting angry, so the night's on my back. But you're saying nothing at all, so cut me some slack. Well, I spent all those nights feeling so guilty for letting you near the ugliest parts of me. I think it's time I stop feeling stupid for that. 'Cause I gave you everything, everything that I had. I gave you everything, everything that I had. And I thought you called 'cause you wanted to see me. You were just calling because I was easy. You know that I love you. How dare you do something like that? 'Cause I gave you everything, everything that I had. I gave you everything, everything that I had. And I gave you everything that I had. Well, thank you guys, and thanks to this awesome band for learning these songs on the fly and playing them with me. It's a real luxury. I'm 32, I feel 23. Got no husband next to me. I just wanna rock and roll, scream out my lungs and burn real slow. I take all the
Lilly Hiatt. The record's called Trinity Lane. Along with the eTones, Chris Engelman, Ron Jolly, Aaron Youngberg, Helen Forster, Lilly Hiatt.
Your visit to eTown is made possible in part by the Scientific and Cultural Facilities District, or SCFD, one of the largest cultural funding mechanisms in the United States, supporting nearly 300 organizations in the greater Denver area. And by our diverse family of NPR affiliates and community stations, plus college and commercial stations, as well as our international stations and podcast subscribers worldwide. Thank you for your continued support. You're listening to eTown.
I'm Nick Forster. I'd like to say hello to our listeners who hear eTown on stations like KRML in Carmel, California, on KHEN in Salida, Colorado, and on WOI in Des Moines, Iowa. As always, if you want some more information about any of the things we're up to here at eTown, check us out online at etown.org. So I promised an interesting group of folks at the top of the show. I'm confident that we have delivered so far, but we're not done. Would you please welcome back to the stage, along with his buddy Guthrie Trapp, John Oates.
Thank you. And Helen, you're going to sing on this one, aren't you?
I would love to.
This would be fantastic. All right. This song is the title song for the new album. The album's called Arkansas, and so is the song. And here we go. There's a faded globe along the great river road, in a worn-down farmhouse, hanging on a broke-down porch, looking over miles and miles and miles. Walk along the levee, silhouetted by a crescent moon. When the sun starts rising at 9 before the clock strikes noon, don't you know the days and nights, dreams drift slowly by. Another Delta dawn brings hope worth waiting on. Will that old man river flow past the snow-white cotton fields of Arkansas, yeah. There's a long black train running on a southbound track. Hear that distant whistle blowing when it calls you back to that hard-hit heartland along the muddy shore. Well, that old man river flow past the snow-white cotton fields of Arkansas, yeah. cotton fields of Arkansas here. Watch an old man river flow. There's the snow-white cotton fields of Arkansas, yeah. Watch an old man river flow. There's the snow-white cotton fields of Arkansas. Watch an old man river flow. There's the snow-white cotton fields of Arkansas. Yeah, yeah. Watch an old man river flow. There's a snow-white cotton field of Arkansas. I just want to thank Nick and Helen for finally getting me out here. I've been wanting to do eTown for so long, so it's really a pleasure to be here, and thank you guys for coming, and the great band. My good buddy Guthrie Trapp right here on the lead guitar. All right. Helen, are you going to stay out and sing another one with us? All right. Now, a lot of people think this song's about a woman, but it's actually not. It's about the city of New York, and it's going to go, well, it doesn't go like this. It's going to go something like this. Only comes out at night, the lean and hungry type. Nothing that you do, whether seen or hear before. Watching and waiting, she's in it for you, but her eyes are on the door. Many have paid to see what you think, getting for free. A woman is wild when she gets tamed by the purr of a jaguar. Money the matter, she's in it for love, ain't gonna get too far. Oh, here she comes. Watch out, boy, gonna chew you up. Oh, here she comes. She's a man-eater's hell. Oh, here she comes. Watch out, boy, gonna chew you up. Oh, here she comes. She's a man-eater, she's a man-eater, yeah. She's a man-eater's hell. Oh, here she comes. Watch out, boy, gonna chew you up. Oh, here she comes. She's She's a man-eater, man-eater. Oh, here she comes. She only comes out at night, that's right. Oh, here she comes. She's a man-eater, yeah. Oh, here she comes. Woman is wild. I said, woman is wild. Better watch out, boy. Gonna chew you up, gonna spit you out. Better believe you know what I'm talking about. She's a man-eater. She's a man-eater. She gonna chew you up, gonna spit you out. Better believe you know what I'm talking about.
John Oates, along with Guthrie Trapp and the eTones. The record is called Arkansas, out on 30 Tigers Records. John Oates. We are going to get everybody back on stage and do one more song. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank all our guests coming to eTown this week. Thanks to Lilly Hiatt for coming out from Nashville, Tennessee, and playing songs from her new record, Trinity Lane. Thanks to Helen Thorpe for coming and talking about her latest book, The Newcomers, Inside Story on a very real immigration issue. Thanks to John Oates, along with his friend Guthrie Trapp, the hard-working eTones, and Helen Forster. Thanks to all of you. We talked about how John was able to go backstage early on in 1967 and go meet the Temptations at the Apollo Theater, so it seemed fitting that we should at least explore some of that stuff. I'm Nick Forster. Hope you can be with us next week right here in eTown.
I got sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside, I got the month of May. I guess you say, what can make me feel this way? My girl,
My girl, my girl,
talking about my girl, my girl.
I've got so much honey, the bees envy me. I got a sweeter song than the birds in the trees.
I guess you say, what can make me feel this way? My girl,
My girl, my girl,
talking about my girl, my girl. Hey, 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 hey.
eTown's recorded at eTown Hall and produced by our donor-supported nonprofit organization. To comment about the show, email us at info@etown.org or connect with us on Twitter or on Facebook. Distribution is made possible by our family of sponsors, this station, and listeners like you.
I don't need no money for fortunes or wealth or fame. I got all the riches, baby, one man can claim. Yeah, I guess you say what can make me.
This is a production of eTown.